he took his family to Kano and took his daughter Halima to be enrolled in a Turkish school in Kano. The first thing they were told by the proprietor of the school, or maybe the administrator, was that, where are you coming from? And the mother said, we're coming from Bauchi. Said, we've never had any student from Bauchi. He insisted that she had to go back to the primary, but the mother insisted that she was willing to permit her sit for the exams. If she failed, she would fail honorably. She sat for the exams, and at the end of the day, she aced the exams. Sleep. And for the rest of the day, I couldn't sleep. There's no joy that can be equated with that. Money may not be coming in. There may not be rewards for that. But sometimes you meet a young man, a young girl that walks into your class, and you remember that I am part of the building block in the life of this young person. There is no honor greater than that. So I know that they kept saying that teacher's reward is in heaven. It's true. You can never pay a teacher. You can never. You can never pay a teacher. So I like to say we are where we ought to be. Most of us are teachers not by design. Our first day in the classroom, supposing we are given the chance to talk, time and space will not contain that. A lot of us will feel like leaving, walking away without coming back. But here we are, some of us with decades of experience in teaching profession. We'll be talking about teachers and administrators' gender responsive and safe classroom environment. Is there a pointer, Charity, or something? Okay. Now, I don't know. For the fact that we are teachers and administrators, gender responsive and safe classroom. I would like to begin by asking us this. Are there things that you and I as teachers are expected to play in ensuring that our classes are gender responsive and safe for both girls and boys? Be it an administrator or a teacher, are there things we are expected to do? Za mu yi ta magana ne, maybe muna ɗan interruption muna tafiya. Ko akwai abin da ya kamata mu yi? I told you from the beginning that I'm an Hausa major. With your apology, madam. You will not be lost, I'm sure. Is there anything that I would be telling myself, my name is Yahaya. Do I have a duty, an obligation, a responsibility to ensure that our classrooms are gender responsive and safe? Our school environments are gender responsive and safe. Thank God a lady is talking.
Gender sensitivity. We have to be sensible, not to. We have to be sensible enough not to place our attention on a particular gender. We should make references to both gender, both the female and the male in the classroom, to make it conducive for them.
Okay. Now what she is saying, in a nutshell, somebody was translating, it was said in a nutshell, that you are duty bound to ensure that you don't align to a particular gender. You strike a balance between the male and the female pupils and students you are engaging. Is there any other person?
Yes, actually.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
The sitting arrangement, how you arrange your class, how you place the students, what they are to help the environment to be conducive.
Okay. The sitting arrangement, as he has said, should also reflect the fact that the class is gender responsive. How do you mean sitting arrangement? That the girls will sit at the back and the boys at the front? Or how, sir?
That's why I say the sitting arrangement.
Okay.
Because in the only classes, the whole arrangement, you see girls one side, the boys one side, the boys at the front, the girls at the back.
Okay.
So you should stop.
Okay.
You should at least listen.
Okay.
So,
thank you. Any other person? Oh, I like the fact that women are talking.
Again, in regards to this safe
classroom environment. We avoid words that would demoralize our students, both male and female, while teaching, so that they will concentrate and get to their goals.
We had to avoid words that would demoralize our learners, students and pupils. Words that can pull them down. Some of us are shy. The moment the word is sent forth, we are blank for the rest of the day. Let's go to the next slide. I was made to understand that I have about 45 minutes or so. Okay. 40. By the end of the session, the participant should be able to know what gender-responsive classroom is, what makes a class or school gender-responsive and safe for learners, responsibilities of administrators, teachers, in making a classroom or school environment gender-responsive. Now, these are some of the things we will try to do justice to in the next less than 40 minutes. And I feel like saying we have done justice to the class because based on the responses I have gotten, I am sure we have a handle on what we'll be discussing today. Let's go to the next. What is gender responsiveness? I would like a situation whereby we don't get caught up copying what is on the slide, because I'm sure the slides will be shared at the end of the workshop. Creating an environment through site selection, staff selection, program development, content and materials that reflect an understanding of the realities of girls and boys' lives and addresses their challenges and strengths. That is just in simple English. Creating an environment that reflects the complexities of both girls and boys. The Hausa man has this popular adage that ciwon yana mace na ya mace ce. So, in ensuring that your class or your school is gender responsive, you should be able to know that even from the staff selection, that you don't select staff that are basically from a particular gender and forgetting the other gender. Whether we like it or not, we have been in the classroom and you discover that you need a balance to ensure that you carry every gender along in the way you bring them up as pupils and students. You need to ensure that the materials and the contents that are expected to be used in changing the behavior of the students and pupils is also gender responsive. I equally said a gender responsive school is one in which the academic, social and physical environment take into account the specific needs of both girls and boys. S is missing in the second one. It doesn't end in the classroom. Whatsoever that concerns the child's behavior in totality within the confines of the school should be able to be reflecting a gender responsive environment. I said equally, a school, class, and environment that is gender responsive addresses gender-based barriers. There are some of these barriers we have placed, which maybe we'll be able to point out at the course of the session. Respect gender differences. Enable structures, systems, and methodologies to be sensitive to gender, so that you don't see yourself as a man and you ensure that it's a man's world. I remember a long time ago, James Brown of blessed memory, one American singer, he has this song, it's a man's world. But it ended up by saying, but it will be nothing without a boy or a girl. The next slide. What makes a classroom gender responsive and safe? A gender responsive classroom setup involves mixed sitting arrangement to enhance the equal participation of girls and boys, and particularly engage women to speak and overcome shyness. We are Nigerians, Africans. We are in the north at the moment, even if we are not from the north. And there's this popular notion that we have that girls are shy, which I don't believe that. It is our duty as teachers to ensure that we bring them out of their own shells to be able to speak. But without the enabling environment, you might be talking from morning to evening without getting the best of these young ones that are in your class. I don't want to agree that women are shy. I'll never be tired of giving this story that happened to me while growing up. I was in JS3 to be specific, and I was told by my friends that I need to have a girlfriend. I was a mommy's boy then, very close to my mother, and my friends were saying, "You're old enough to have a girlfriend." I dressed in my best, wearing what the Englishman could say, my glad rags. And I went to see a lady somewhere. I remember this thing as if it happened yesterday. I was there waiting for the young girl to come out. And then the moment she was some few meters away from me, my heart began to pound. She was just about 2 to 3 meters away from me. I turned back. Haba malam. Gida. I remember this thing as if it happened yesterday. But growing up, I got exposed to a lot of people that make me believe that the best way to handle your fears is to confront them. And for now, give me the whole of Bauchi to talk to them. At least I'll be able to say something. So you are duty bound to be somebody that brings out the best in Yahaya while growing up. Ensure that you make them overcome this shyness, this barrier that could stop them from talking, in order to get the best from them. Seating arrangement allowing both boys and girls to be positioned at the same level. Sometimes we hide under the canopy of religion and we take the girls to the back seat. And whether we like it or not, it affects their assimilation. I can imagine in a class where she said they have about 100 and something students, and then the girls are at the back. Not all of us are loud enough to be heard by the last person in the class. And at the end of the day, they get up getting caught up completely. I'm not saying that we have to go against religion, yes, but whatsoever that within the ambits of what religion permits, we are duty bound to do that. Next. What makes a class or school gender responsive? Equality between male and female teachers. It's not newsy to discover that in some schools, the preference that are given to male teachers far outweigh that which is given to the female teachers. They are seen as teachers that could only handle the play group and the nursery. Chemistry, physics, hell no, it's not meant for them. But there should be equality based on the capacity of the teachers, so that you ensure that in the recruitment process they are given this opportunity. Agenda responsive policies. I know that it might not be popular in most of our schools, but it is key, particularly in the 21st century, for a school to have a policy on gender. It guides the working of the school. It might not be something that is so academic, because the moment the issue of policy is mentioned, people tend to think as if you need to get an expert to draft something that would wow people that will listen, but that is not what I'm saying. A policy that will state that in this school, as a teacher, you are duty bound to use gender neutral languages to ensure that you don't demean somebody because the person is from this gender, to ensure that you carry every gender along in the way you handle the school. It is key. Policies are documents that would help us in delivering what we do as teachers and administrators as well. Curriculum training on gender responsiveness. This is equally part of this training. Sometimes we do what we do because we are not being exposed to best practices. So it is a duty of a school to ensure that it gets an opportunity to expose the teachers to curriculum training on gender responsiveness. It is key. I want to believe there are countless number of organizations in Bauchi that can offer some of these services on a pro bono basis. Yes. I happen to work in an organization called LitTots. YLN is also one of them that is facilitating this training. You can, as an administrator, at whatever point in time, walk to their office in order to discuss to see how you'll be able to do it, to equip your teachers with the basic tools they require to be gender responsive, even as they engage the learners. Address cost and infrastructure barriers. I want to talk about this cost. The lady that was talking spoke about some of the challenges the female students were facing, which has to do with the lack of sanitary pads. These are issues around cost. The fact remains that some of these female learners, the moment they are on their monthly period and they don't have pads, they don't come to school. Some of them might come to school and the moment they get wet, they go home and they don't come back. You are duty bound to ensure that you have means of trying to address some of those issues. It is possible that you might be saying that I'm just a classroom teacher, I can do nothing. Awareness, engaging the school administration, meeting other friends with like minds that could assist in that regard. I've lost count of the number of times where I have seen people conversing for support, to support girls with sanitary pads, connecting with the community. Sometimes, the moment this gender responsivity ends in school, we might not be able to get the best of it. We are duty bound as we reside in these communities where the schools are sited to ensure that the community is also on board with us. I know that particularly for some government schools there is what is called SBMC, right? Yes. You are duty bound as administrators to ensure that these members of this SBMC are equally in tune with the best practices regarding gender responsivity. Ensure that materials are free from gender stereotypes. Avoid the term guy, which may make female learners feel excluded. Use gender neutral pronouns like everyone. You guys shouldn't do that. It's not professionally correct to be using this term in the class, but some teachers use that. You guys are not expected to do that. And whether you like it or not, it excludes some of the female learners from getting what you are doing as a teacher. Next. Do not refer to stereotypical characteristics like boys don't cry, or girls don't fight, or man up. Haba, ya kake kaman kai ba namiji ba. I remember in one of the schools, a girl was called boy girl because she doesn't permit any young person in the class, young boy, to dare her. She was given the nickname boy girl. Yeah, and on the other part, go to the female gender as well. They are selfish on a lighter note. Anything, to them, anything good is associated with the female gender. So anything that is not appealing to the eye could be associated to the male gender. So ensure that you don't use some of these stereotypical characteristics. Man up. You're crying as if you're not a man. All these are signals you are sending to the students and pupils that you are not a gender responsive teacher. Help learners identify instances of gender bias through awareness activities or historical events, laws or cultural changes. You are duty bound to help them do that. Create awareness in the class, using stories that reflect the things that happen within their communities. How some of these things are addressed. We are from the north, and we make bold to build our chest to speak about Queen Amina of Zaria, the lady that went to war and conquered nations. But yet, when it comes to practice, we relegate our women to the back seat. Mix boys and girls to work on a project. Ensure that you mix them as they work on group work in the classroom. Particularly, this is key for people like you that complain of about 100 and something students in the class. Group works, group assignment will help a lot. And in grouping, ensure that you don't allow boys to be in one group and the girls on the other group. Next. Who is responsible? It is very, very easy for us to apportion blames whenever the issue of gender responsiveness is mentioned. It is very easy for us to point fingers to others. And from what is being displayed on our screen, the government has a responsibility to play. Schools equally have their own responsibilities. Students, which encompasses pupils and the students alike, learners, have their responsibility, and teachers as well. It is something that all hands must be on deck to address gender issues and to ensure that people don't stereotype a particular gender. Next. Teacher's responsibility. Now, as a teacher, we all know that there is a limit to what you can do in the school or even in the classroom. You are not the one that is expected to go to the market to make purchases for the desks that these learners will be using. In most schools, they don't permit you to go and buy the teaching aids. They do it. Even though most times they take your recommendations before going to make such purchases. Classroom setup that mixes girls and boys. So it is the duty of the classroom teacher to ensure that the school is gender responsive in the way the seating arrangement is being organized. It is not a duty of the school administrator to walk into the class and tell the classroom teacher, this one should sit there, you will go to the other side. You are duty bound as a teacher to ensure that you do that. Classroom setup that enhances participation of both girls and boys, so that the moment they want to talk or participate, they have free access to be able to participate in the class. They can do it without any form of hindrance. You are duty bound to ensure that you remove whatsoever hindrance that will stop them from participating. Arrangement of the desks that encourages quiet students to speak out and overcome shyness. If you discover that a particular child is shy, you don't take him to the back seat because he will get missing in those that are there. Bring him close by where you will spur him to talk whenever the class is going on. Fixtures, posters, and visual aids on the wall that send gender responsive messages. Some of those things are not rocket science. It could be part of the things they do in the class. Designing some of those things that are gender responsive and that are pasted on the class for every person to see. The teacher could engage them to do that, to decorate their classes with pictures, posters, messages that are gender responsive. The next one. Giving equal chances to both female and male learners. Sometimes even in the way we allow them participate in the class, some teachers give preference to the other gender. Hands might be risen countless number of times, and each time you're picking, you're aligned to a particular gender. Ensure that there is a balance, even in allowing them to speak and contribute in the class. Extending positive reinforcement to both female and male learners. Spurring them. Encouraging them to speak up. Allowing sufficient time for learners to answer questions, especially female learners who may be shy or afraid to express themselves. Sometimes you move with the speed of rocket science. You know that it takes time for the person to respond to a question, and yet you don't give the person sufficient time. We get aligned to the sharp ones that are always willing to talk without thinking, even when they are not on track. So you are duty bound to ensure that you give them time and encourage them to do what? To speak out. Assigning exercises that encourage learners, especially women, to speak out. Ensuring that working groups are mixed and no one is interrupted while speaking. Men, generally, some men rather love dominating. So if you discover a child in the class that would always want to dominate conversations at the cost of teaching, ensure that you put stop to that, because some of them can bully others with their words. So ensure that you don't permit such a thing happening. Nobody gets interrupted. The moment one person is talking, because you know the answer, you are not just expected to speak and interrupt the person. Let the person get to the point where he or she is expected to stop before another person could also contribute. You ensuring that everyone has the opportunity to lead discussions. It might be a simple thing, giving them a task to do in the class. And maybe you call them forth to come and present that in the class. Ensure that is gender reflective when they come for presentation. So that if you are grouping the class to about 5 groups, you don't just permit 5 boys to speak in the class. Ensure that it is gender responsive. Ensuring that group leaders are both female and male. Next. Encouraging both female and male to present results from group work, ensuring that both female and male serve as note takers in small group work. It is key. My brother here knows how to write. So each time we are doing something, it might be extracurricular, and we are supposed to get somebody to take notes. He's always the one to take notes because he's our own Kofi Annan of them. So if you are duty bound as a teacher to ensure that notes taking shouldn't be restricted to a particular gender. Phrasing questions to reflect equal gender representation, using female and male characters while making illustrations. Your illustration shouldn't always be reflecting a particular gender, but it should be either gender neutral or there should be a balance between the two. Ensuring no learner dominates others. Assigning similar duties to both female and male learners. I know that most of you would agree with me. We get permanent students that are the ones to wipe the board always. And sometimes we get permanent students that will sweep the class always. Permanent ones that will go to the staff room to get something for us. It could be our register, a lesson plan or notebook, or anything from the staff room. And whether we like it or not, we are tilted towards getting that young man that is active and agile. Is always the one doing that. Sometimes the reason why some of these ones don't come out to display some of those inner qualities that they are created with is because we don't create the enabling environment for them to do that. I don't want to take you through the journey of what happened to me that I am able to stand in your presence to speak with you. But supposing I'm left like that person that ran away from his first crush, maybe I would have been hiding my face today. So you are duty bound to ensure that you strike a balance between the two. He has spoken today. This one should do it. Who wiped the board yesterday? This person should do that. All acts of sexual harassment and assault must be punished. Sometimes we sweep it under the carpet, particularly for those of us that are from the north. Let me digress a little bit to speak in just 2 sentences. Some of us feel shy. Your daughter is out, she's vulnerable. Somebody took advantage of her and raped her, and you want to sweep it under the carpet because under the guise of the fact that it's going to stain the image of my own family. It's wrong. And sometimes we condone some of those acts of sexual harassment and we sweep it under the carpet. It is good that we spell out clearly that such acts are not going to be condoned in the class, and you punish the offender in order to serve as a deterrent to other classmates and other schoolmates as well. Administrators, school management's responsibilities. The key thing, number one thing an administrator will do is to ensure that teachers receive training on gender responsiveness. Quite a number of us, if there are any, that will take themselves and enroll themselves to be trained. Even if you're going to do that, quite a few of us would pay to attend trainings. Part of the reason is because the teachers take home cannot take them home. So it is the duty of the school to ensure that periodically avenues are created for teachers to be trained. It adds value to the school and it adds value to what you do as a person. Next. They should be role models of gender responsiveness in the recruitment process. Ensure that there is a balance between both gender. Stools in laboratories that are appropriate in size and shape, thus enabling active participation of both girls and boys. Remember, I said earlier that when it comes to purchases, sometimes the teachers are not the one responsible for doing that. Some of those stools are not actually stools that may be comfortable, particularly for some of those girls. So it is the duty of the school administrator to ensure that the stools that are being used in laboratories are appropriate in size and shape, to ensure that the learners use them and participate very well. Appropriate shelf heights in the libraries for students, depending on age, height, and physical ability of students, and accessibility for students with liabilities. It is key. Whether we like it or not, sometimes you look at a woman and you see that she's very tall. Let her stand close to a man and you see the man dwarfing her. So in making shelves in the classroom, let's take into account that as a man, I can stretch my hands effortlessly and get something on the shelf. But a lady had to do it, to be on her toes to do that. And it might be most inconveniencing for her. Let's take that into account. Appropriate size, shape, and weight of desks and chairs that allow flexibility for movement and accessibility for students with disabilities. Yes. Fixtures, posters, and visual aids throughout the building that send gender-responsive messages. The building should also be decorated. Even though when you go to most of our schools, you don't see some of those things being displayed, but it is key. Part of the windows to the mind is the eye. You might not be telling the child anything, but seeing a poster pasted somewhere would send a signal to the child that I need to do this or that. Make sure sanitation facilities are equally adequate. Particularly, we spoke about this issue of menstrual hygiene, that they could access toilet facilities with ease. Most of our schools are having toilet facilities. Some of them are adequate, but when you check the sanitary condition of those toilets, you would prefer to take from Bauchi to Gombe to go and ease yourself and come back than to use them. So it is the duty of school administrators to ensure that people that are assigned these responsibilities of cleaning these facilities are up and doing in their responsibilities. Next. School and classroom dynamics. Having enumerated the responsibilities of teachers and as well as administrators to ensure a gender-responsive class or school environment, what are some of those dynamics that could serve as hindrance to that, or some of those dynamics that could aid gender responsiveness? Next. Administrators and school management responsibility. Ensure that, okay, oh, that one is not supposed to be there, sorry. Ensure that there is a, yes, teacher presentation is a key dynamic. Appearance, mannerism have a great impact on the learners. I will not be tired of sharing the story which I got at the course of one of the workshops I attended, put together by university president. I remember I anchored the workshop and I was also a facilitator, participants coming from the school where I was. Now, the resource person then was a professor, a female professor from University of Jos that came in. And she said there was a survey that was carried out to ensure whether some of these young ones in the class would want to grow and take up teaching as a profession. One of them was asked, "Do you want to be a teacher when you grow up?" She said, "No, I don't want to be a teacher." And the person questioning her asked, "What is your reason?" She said, "My mother is a teacher and she always said that they have not paid her." That one aside, and the second person was asked, "Do you want to be a teacher when you grow up?" He said, "No, I don't want to be a teacher." And he was asked, "Why don't you want to be a teacher?" He said, "My teacher always comes to school with tear trouser. And whether you like it or not, I have known a child that will tell his father that I want to dress like this uncle. They want to send him to school in the morning. He will tell his father, no, I want to talk like this uncle." What we are speaks so loud that they don't hear what we say. It is a fact. So the way we appear has a great way of contributing to the assimilation of these learners. Let us check ourselves one by one. Some of those teachers we had during our secondary school days and primary school days, we detested some of them because of the way they appear. I can mention some of them as if it happened yesterday. So you are duty bound to be a role model to the person, the students and the learners, so that the moment they see you, they want to be like you. Don't be that teacher that comes to class with tear trouser. Student presentation, poor presentation, untidiness, lack of personal hygiene or disruptive behavior that also affects gender responsiveness. It is key that the moment you appear shabbily as a child coming from home, it affects the way you learn. You don't have confidence. Even as adults, sometimes when we wear new clothes, there's a way we feel, let alone a child. So a child that is unkempt and untidy will be aggressive in the way he relates with his fellow classmates. So some of these are dynamics that could be handled during PTA, one-on-one conversation with the parents to ensure that the learners are always neat and tidy. Teacher-student interaction. Each girl or boy brings into the classroom different set of personalities, styles, histories, social identities and dreams. We are all wired differently. And it is your duty as a teacher to harmonize some of those things we come from home, to ensure that some of those things we are told from home are being rewired. Teacher-parent interaction. Teachers and parents have shared responsibilities of supporting learners. Are they on the same page? Do you agree almost on everything? Unless you are working towards a common goal, the upbringing of a child is not vested on the parents or on the teachers alone. It's a teamwork that should be done between the parents and the teachers alike. Teacher-teacher interaction. Teachers should strive to ensure inclusion, equality, gender sensitivity, and mutual respect among each other. Teachers are to be supportive and collaborative. Mutual respect. Allah ke mace ne mai kika sani ko ba ku da damuwa banda goal kawai da wannan ke yanzu ki sai sabon zani. Sometimes that's the way. And these learners hear that. And they grow to believe that as a lady, the only thing I'm good for is to wait for the man to bring the bounty for me to spend. Let me buy things that will make me look good. That is the only thing I'm created for. Do we respect one another? We're duty bound to do that. We are expected to be supportive in the way we relate with one another as teachers. I've lost count of the number of times that I've knocked on my fellow teachers' doors to ask him, I don't know how to handle this. Some of those things might be as simple as a quantitative or verbal reasoning of primary 3 or 4. I love the one that is being produced by Lantern. Turn to the back and they tell you that even those answers that you think are wrong might be right. Sometimes you need a lot of brainstorming to be able to get to the right answer. So do you collaborate? Does the female teacher feel comfortable to come to you and ask with no strings attached, how do I do this, and you offer solution? Or do they see the female teachers in one side and the male teachers in one side? They will grow to believe that this is how it's supposed to be. Women are expected to be in the outer room, says our former president. And for them, they will grow to be like that. So what we do at the course of interacting as teachers says a lot about the way we encourage the students to also be accommodating of one another. Student-student interaction. Learners must interact, communicate, and collaborate with each other and discuss different understandings and questions that they have. At the end of your learning in school, you are awarded a certificate on the basis of the fact that you are being evaluated based on character and learning. I have seen a number of times where a child is being punished on the basis of the fact that he is an A student yet without a good character. So it is key that we take into account the interactions they have on school ground. Sometimes we leave them all by themselves. I forgot one of the key things that are also important, which has to do with the feel of play. You don't just let the pupils and the student to go out on the field of play all by themselves. Teachers are expected periodically to watch what they do, eavesdrop on their conversations at the course of play, ensure that the boys don't dominate the playground, ensure that they are always playing safe. All these are key issues that will also help them to be gender responsive. Next. Conclusion. Teachers and school administrators have the opportunity to shape the way learners view gender, setting a healthy standard of how male learners should treat female learners. That can help to make the school environment safe for learning. Gender responsiveness starts with education as the best way to change human behavior. Teachers and school administrators should be role models to the learners in the way they interact with one another within and outside the school. It is a known fact that children learn faster by imitating. Policies are to be developed that address gender responsiveness, and the management are to ensure policy compliance. Thank you. Do I have time for questions, or I can just... Okay. I don't know if there are questions.